I cheated on my husband 14 times with his best friend and other guys, and now I don't know what to do about it. This story is wild, so hold on. My husband and I have been married for 2 years. We're best friends, so we've had a really good relationship. We got married after 6 months of meeting each other. During that whole time, I met a lot of his friends, including his best friend. But he told me he had another best friend who was going to be traveling for a full year. One day, my husband tells me that all his friends are getting together to greet their best friend, the one who had been traveling for a full year. We show up to the party, and it turns out that this best friend is a woman. Not just any woman, but one that looks like she could model for Vogue. This woman was so good looking, I instantly got insecure. When her and my husband saw each other, they ran to each other's arms. Then I spent the entire night trying to be included in the conversation. Every time I would ask a question, she would answer it to my husband. She would never even look me in the face. Finally, I asked her if she had a problem, and she said, "No, I'm sorry. I'm just really excited to see my best friend." When we got in the car, I told my husband I didn't like her. Then he said that he knew exactly what I was going to say. And he also said not to worry because I would never have to hang out with her. And that he would hang out with her without me, just to save me the trouble. Part 2 is up. I cheated on my husband 14 times with his best friend and other guys, and now I don't know what to do. That's when he told me that he would hang out with his girl best friend without me, so that he could save me the trouble of having to see her face. Then I asked him if he thought that she was more attractive than me, and that if he preferred to be with her than with me. He started to laugh and said no, and he felt offended that I would even ask him. So basically, he didn't even answer my question. Sometimes he would tell me that he would go hang out with her at bars. I would stay home and just literally cry the entire time. I would get sick to my stomach picturing my husband hanging out with this Vogue model. That's when I reached out to my husband's best friend and asked him what the deal with her was. And this man spilled all the tea. He told me that they had all been best friends since college, and that the Vogue model was basically in love with my husband the entire time they were in college. But my husband never paid attention to her. But then he told me that they ended up hooking up one night, and that after that my husband was hooked. But then she didn't want to be with him. Instead, they decided to stay best friends. I ran to the bathroom and vomited. Part 3 is up. I cheated on my husband 14 times with his best friend and other guys, and now I don't know what to do. After finding out that my husband had hooked up with his girl best friend who was really attractive, I vomited. Even though this was before I had met him, something told me that she was probably still in love with him. That's when my husband's guy best friend, who had just told me everything, invited me over to his house. And then the idea just came to me. I'm gonna start hooking up with whoever I want if my husband's gonna be doing it with his best friend. So I went over to this guy's house, we had a few drinks, and I hooked up with him. Did I regret it? Absolutely not. I felt liberated. It's like I had gotten revenge on my husband. So after that, I went on a rampage. I tried to hook up with as many of his friends as possible. Exactly 6 guys. Then I looked for the guys that I liked in college, and I hooked up with a bunch of them too. In total, 14. This all happened in a month. But now my husband told me that his best friend, the girl that I thought he was hooking up with, is pregnant from another guy and that they're getting married. And that the whole time she was away traveling for a year, she was with this man. Now I feel like a total asshole. What should I do? My boyfriend and his friends trapped me in a house and assaulted me. Disclaimers is not my story time, it's sending me on Instagram. I met my boyfriend in college last year. We had the same class, and during class I would always catch him staring at me. At first it was a little creepy, but once we started talking, I realized how charming he was. One day he came up to me and just started asking me about where I was from. And right away I got these butterflies in my stomach. He was really attractive, and I could tell that the girls in our class all looked at him a certain way too. He asked me out on a date and I said yes. But when some of my friends found out that I was going on a date with him, they started telling me things. One of my friends told me that there was a rumor going around that he had assaulted another girl. I just couldn't picture him being that way. He didn't seem capable of anything like that. Later on that day, I got a message from another girl telling me the same thing. And when I asked for information about the girl he supposedly assaulted, they told me that they didn't remember her name. That apparently she just left school after it happened. Part 2 is up. My boyfriend and his friends trapped me in a house and assaulted me. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. After I heard about the rumors that he had assaulted a girl, I asked for evidence and nobody had any. Nobody even remembered the name of the girl. So I decided to go on the date with him. He took me on a picnic and at first it was really nice. He had asked me what some of my favorite foods were and he brought them all with him. He brought hummus and cherry tomatoes and chips. But 5 minutes into the picnic, he grabs me and kisses me. Now, I'm not saying that I didn't want to be kissed, I just didn't want it to happen so quickly. And he didn't even ask me for permission, which looking back now was the first red flag. After that, he couldn't keep his hands off of me. I never said no, so he just kept going. He kept touching my shoulder and my legs, and he would lean in and kiss me every now and then. By the end of the day, I was into it. The rest of the relationship, he was always a little bit aggressive. He never asked me if I wanted to do anything, he would just do it. A week after we started dating, he introduced me to his friends. One of them jokingly asked my boyfriend when it was his turn to take with me. Part 3 is up. My boyfriend and his friends trapped me in a house and assaulted me. Disclaimer, this is not my story time, it's on Instagram. That's when one of his friends asked him when it was his turn to take with me. And although he was joking, it was disgusting. My boyfriend laughed though. He thought it was so funny. Mind you, this is the first time I'm ever meeting his group of friends. After that, there were a few incidents. On one occasion at a party, one of his friends forced me to dance with him for 3 minutes. But while he kept grabbing my waist and my butt. Finally, my boyfriend came back and I told him and he just laughed. Another time we were at the beach and one of his friends came up behind me and undid my bikini top. Essentially, I flashed everyone. Stuff like that kept happening until the night of the incident. All walking back from a club club when we stopped at a house. It looked abandoned and my boyfriend insisted that we all go in. I said no, but he finally convinced me. And as soon as we get into the house, my boyfriend tells me that I need to run. He looked so serious that I actually ran up the stairs. Then I could feel all of them chasing me. One of them grabbed my shirt and ripped it. When I got into one of the rooms, I tried to close the door, but they opened it. Then another one grabbed my hair and pushed me up against a wall. He started trying to kiss me, but I bit him. I ran into another room and one of them was already there. He tripped me, and when I fell to the ground, he grabbed my neck. Then he started saying that I've been teasing them this whole time. Finished tearing my shirt and took it off. I was screaming at the top of my lungs at this point. Another one of the guys came in and I was able to get up and run. They chased me around the house for what seemed like an eternity, but it was probably only 30 seconds. And that's when I realized that the only person I hadn't seen was my boyfriend. And I remembered the rumors about my boyfriend having assaulted a girl. I realized that it was true, and that I was just his next victim. Only this time his friends were involved. Part 4 is up. My boyfriend and his friends trapped me in a house and assaulted me. As I'm hiding in a corner hoping that none of them find me, I hear footsteps walking towards me. I realize that this is probably where they had brought the other girl to assault her, and that they knew every corner of this house, so there was no way for me to hide. Suddenly I feel someone grab my elbow and pull me up. It was the friend that had torn my shirt and told me that I was teasing them. Immediately he pins my arms behind me and starts trying to kiss me. Then he actually said that I should be flattered because they all find me so beautiful, and that the more I fight back, the funner it is for them. Suddenly I hear my boyfriend yell stop, runs up the stairs and into the room. At this point the other 3 guys were in the room, just watching the other one kiss me. Then he said the joke is over, grabs me and takes me out of the house. That's when I turned to him and say that the rumors were true this whole time. Then he grabbed me by the shoulders, looked me in the face and said that she had wanted it, and that his friends and him were just joking around in the house. Dropped me off at my dorm, and the next morning I woke up with bruises and hickeys all over my body. I reported it to the school, but they've done nothing. My boyfriend keeps swearing that it's a joke. I blocked him, but he keeps showing up at my door. He's being sweet and even sending me groceries. I'll keep you guys updated.
Am I the asshole for refusing to allow my sister and her daughter over to my house for Christmas as planned because my sister cheated with my soon-to-be ex-husband? My sister is a single mom to a 5-year-old daughter. In April of this year, I found out that my sister and my husband have been sleeping together for at least 3 months. I ended my marriage with him and am in the process of getting a divorce. I also stopped helping out my sister, which I had done since she had her daughter. I told her I never wanted to see her again and to not ask me for help. Our parents are both disabled and live together in a nursing home. They were upset when they heard what happened, but they told me that they would not cut off one daughter for the other. I told them I understood and I would never ask them, but they needed to understand I will not be there for my sister anymore. I don't care how bad her life gets or whether she needs some life-saving blood or a kidney from me one day. They told me that they understand, but now that Christmas is approaching, there is a big deal being made out of the fact that I am not welcoming her or her daughter for Christmas like I normally do. I always bought my niece gifts and gave them some place to go for Christmas. And now that I'm not opening my new home to them, my parents told me how it would be for my niece and not my sister. I told them being there for my niece means having contact with my sister and that I do not want to see her again. My sister begged and pleaded with me to let them come. She has apologized multiple times. Part 2. Am I the asshole for refusing to allow my sister and her daughter over to my house for Christmas as planned because my sister cheated with my soon-to-be ex-husband? My parents told me how it would be for my niece, not my sister. I told them that being there for my niece means having contact with my sister and that I do not want to see her again. My sister begged and pleaded with me to let them come, and she has apologized multiple times for what she has done. But I do not care. I never cared. She was getting so much from me, and then she goes behind my back like that. She disrespected me. She made a fool out of me. This is not me saying she is only to blame, but my ex will soon be completely cut from my life, and I want the same to be true for my sister. My sister sent me messages saying her daughter misses me, etc., etc. How she'll be heartbroken if it's just them for Christmas with almost no gifts. I told her that was her problem to fix and not mine. My sister and my parents are saying I'm being cold-hearted towards the wrong person. Just before I forget, I'm planning to change my number, seeing as how she still continues contacting me despite me blocking her and unfriending her from all social media accounts. So, am I the asshole for refusing to allow my sister and her daughter over to my house for Christmas? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Am I the asshole for dropping the "we're not having kids, now stop bringing it up" bomb on my mother-in-law? My husband and I don't want kids. My mother-in-law is big into family in the traditional sense. She has always been pushy about us having kids since we got married. Literally, the week after we got engaged, she started asking. My husband has always changed the subject and has even told her that it's really none of her business. Every time we see her, she asks. Everything we do is built around the idea of us having kids. 3 years into our marriage, my husband said we might not even have kids, and my mother-in-law would not hear it. At year 4, my husband had a vasectomy and I had a tubal. So this weekend we were all at their home enjoying some barbecue and drinks and everything. When I get up to grab a beer, my mother-in-law asked me if maybe I should drink water instead because wink wink, nudge nudge, you never know. I was annoyed by this and said, there's really no chance. My mother-in-law's all-wide grin said, oh, come on. It's time for you two to finally get serious. Put down the beer and tell us when we can finally expect you two to make your family official. My mother-in-law gets real annoyed and says, well, you won't be real, uses the last name, until you bless us with babies. My husband said, Mom, enough. My mother-in-law pushed again and my husband repeated. After about 15 minutes of the usual comments, I finally snapped and said, Mother-in-law. Part 2. Am I the asshole for dropping the we're not having kids, now stop bringing it up bomb on my mother-in-law? I finally snapped and said, Mother-in-law, husband got snipped, I had my tubes tied. We're not having kids, you need to stop bringing it up, period. Well, I thought I started World War III. She started crying and stormed off. Family looked at us with disgust and stormed off to comfort her. We left. The party kind of ended and the social media bullshit started shortly after. Vague posts, links about how motherhood is a woman's greatest calling, articles about how unhappy childless women are, etc. Some meme about how, I guess I wasn't a good enough mother, so I won't be graduating to grandmother. It's obnoxious to the point I just muted all of them. My mother-in-law finally called me this morning and told me that she was willing to put all of this behind us if my husband and I came over and listened to her reasons that we really needed to have kids. I told her no and that we were tired of being pushed into this. And she said, well then, I guess you two aren't really prepared to be real. I'd like a refund for what I paid for the wedding. It wasn't that much, like $400 for the rehearsal dinner. I hung up on her. So, am I the asshole? Let me know your thoughts in the comments.